The Cleveland Cavaliers are so far off to a historic start to the 2024-25 NBA season. They are undefeated. At 13-0, the Cleveland Cavaliers are undefeated, coming off a win versus the shorthanded 76ers. Their start to the season has been so great that they would rank as the 6th best start to a season in NBA history. So basically, they're at a historic pace right now. And all the signs say that at bare minimum, this Cavs team is going to go to the conference finals. Obviously, this is based off of the other 5 teams that have had better starts in league history where they've either made a conference finals or made a finals appearance. And it's kind of weird because half of my brain wants to take this team legitimately serious as a real threat to Boston. Then the other half of my brain thinks, I don't know, maybe it's just a little early still, and not saying they're a pretender and they're not a legitimate playoff team, but I don't know if they're in the tier with Boston. Maybe they're in the tier below that. And I just want to see how things play out. But only time will sway my opinion to see who they really are. And right now, you can't even hate. They look legit to start this season. The Cleveland Cavaliers rank as the best offensive team in the league in a lot of the valuable offensive statistical categories. They're also ranked as a top 10 defense, which would make sense considering that they've been pretty elite on that end for a couple of years now. And when you look at the individual stats, they have 5 guys averaging double figures. Donovan Mitchell is doing a little bit less on paper than he was last season, but I think that's fine. I think it just goes to show how much the other guys have been picking up some slack as well. I think it's cool that Donovan Mitchell doesn't need to go out there and put up 30 a night for this team to be a good offensive team. I think it's nice to see him averaging 24 points a game and them still rank as the top offense in the league. For me, the 2 guys that I look at as a huge reason why the Cavs are having this kind of success is their 2 former lottery picks in Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. Darius Garland, the former top 5 pick in 2019, was someone that I actually looked at during that time as a guy that the Knicks could have taken at number 3, especially with their need for a point guard. I was really high on him coming into the draft, and he started off pretty well with Cleveland, was an all-star in 2022, that year that they made the play-in game. But after that, he had dealt with some unfortunate injuries, and he was basically just pretty disappointing the past couple of years. But I still looked at him in the light as a pretty good player, and now it looks like he's back to being that all-star caliber guard, averaging 20 a night on good splits, dishing out a team-high 7 assists a night as well. Garland going back to being himself is huge for this franchise because this is what they've expected out of him for the past couple of years now. More specifically in the Donovan Mitchell era where he's kind of been shaky and it looks like he's found his footing. The health has been good so far and that's nice to see. And if he can continue to play like this, it opens up a window for them to actually make some real noise. And then on the Mobley side of things, people obviously saw the potential coming into the league as a top 3 pick back in 2021. And people preached patience with him. But it seemed like patience was kind of running out. But then in that series versus the Celtics last year, it looked like something clicked for him. And he's carried over that confidence into this season, which is great because I remember his first playoff series in 23 versus the Knicks. Him and Jared Allen both came up so small in the big moments, but since then they've both grown in a lot of ways. Mobley is averaging 18 and 9 while still being an elite defensive presence, and it seems like he's got a little more freedom to do more things on the playmaking side of the game than he has in previous years. Those 2 guys stepping up their consistency to help out Donovan Mitchell is big time, and I think it makes sense that they're both starting to pop out a little bit more because both of these guys are only 25 and 23 years old. I think we forget how young these guys are, especially when we slandered them earlier in their career because they're not living up to what they should be doing. And sometimes the slander is deserved. But we have to remember, not every career is just straight up onto that path. Sometimes you have some ups and downs, and then they find their footing, and they come into their own. And it looks like so far to start this season, they've found some footing. And I think one of the reasons that they have found their footing is my next point, which is replacing J.B. Bickerstaff with Kenny Atkinson which seems to have done wonders for the Cavs as he's brought in his own vision for what he expects out of these guys. And he's unlocked what these guys can do, having them play some of the best ball in their career for some of these players, and having the Cavs play their best basketball since LeBron James was in a uniform. Or you could say he's off to the best start the Cavs have ever had in their franchise's history. Now, obviously, my last thing I'd want to say about the Cavs is, if you had to ask me right now that come March or April that the Cavs will be in the same tier as the Boston Celtics, remember earlier I said half my brain wants to say yes, but half my brain wants to say no. It's still early, but right now I'd say no. And it's not like there's anything pointing to me saying no. It's just, like I said, I want to feel those things out. I want to see what Cleveland does in the playoffs. I think of them still in like the tier with New York and Philly, and I know that New York and Philly have had their troubles. They're still figuring stuff out, and we don't know what's going to happen with those teams, but I still think those teams will figure some stuff out. And Cleveland could very well still finish with like the best record in the league, best record in the conference kind of situation. Those things, yes, they matter for a team's confidence, but sometimes it doesn't matter. You know, you got the Hawks in 2015. I know people are cracking jokes saying that the Cavs are that team. I'm not going to say that yet, but I just want to see. And I think that's a fair assessment for this Cavs team, because Boston and them seem like they're in different tiers. Like, I think people are taking the Celtics or taking the Cavs a little less serious than they probably should. And yes, it's kind of unfair to them, especially with them having the start that they're having. But I think, like I said earlier, it's a fair assessment. But right now, the Cavaliers are great. And they're off to one of the best starts in league history. And I do think they have a matchup with the Celtics coming up, I think, next week. I am definitely going to try to check out that game, because I think it'll be a great test to see where this team's at. It'll be like a nice measuring stick game for the Cavs to see just how much they've grown, how much of a difference Kenny Atkinson and JB Bickerstaff has been, especially against an elite team like the Celtics, just to put it to the test. Because Cleveland right now, I mean, you have to say they're the best team in the league, right? I mean, I know they've had some scary games recently where like Philly gave them a run for their money and Brooklyn gave them a run for their money, but they look unbeatable right now. And it's going to be really interesting to see if this team is either a real contender to the Boston Celtics and the actual elite teams in the league, or if they're just, you know, a regular season kind of team and they finish out as like a second round exit kind of team. I think those things are still up in the air, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see. Anyways, that's going to do it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This has been a checkup, and I'll see ya in the next video. Peace.